Okay, so let's kick off on today's webinar. Again, as normal, we've got a nice crowd in the room. Please, if you do have any questions, comments, remarks, please send them through and I will deal with them in the course of the webinar. There's some nice moves happening in the market since yesterday, and so let's work our way through it. And I'm going to start in the traditional way. I'm going to start on the daily charts and have a look at some of the setups that are happening there. And certainly the Aussie yen, this is a classical setup. Two nice waves, a trend line violation. That is a sell signal. The only thing that's wrong with the signal is there's no divergence. You can see there's no divergence, but certainly a good signal happening there. Here we have also a good signal happening. There are a few things wrong with this one. This one does have a divergence. Oh God. Let's see, this one does have that divergence, and the trend line is very high. The crossover is very high, and that makes it a bit of a weaker signal, but certainly that is still and the fact that it's going over the 50 line makes it a valid signal. So all good here for this particular signal. So there's quite a few signals happening now. This is typically what happens in the market. One day we have nothing to share, and the next day we have lots to share. And year two, there's a 50 line break over on the pound New Zealand. There we go, another buy signal happening there. And at the same thing here on the Euro Oz, a 2 mounds. You can see the 2 mounds trend line violation. Again, the weakness of this one is that it's very low. It's far from the 50 line, but still that is a valid signal. So let's just put our so a lot of signals happening right now. What the biggest choice we're going to have to make at the end is which ones to trade, and we'll get to that one. And again, here we have the same thing on the euro pound. There is a nice divergence, a trend line violation. Not the greatest signal. I'm not going to put a green arrow next to that one, but certainly that is a signal. See, we can actually become choosy sometimes when these signals happen so often. Again, here the pound. This is the pound. I'm looking at over here, the arrow there, and the pound, the crossover is happening. Again, the divergence, not much of a divergence, but certainly that is a sell signal, an early sell signal. So we'll put that over there. I'm going to have a look at some of the signals we identified yesterday too, as we get to the various charts. Again, here's another setup, two beautiful mounds. The trend line violation not happening yet, but I'm going to put a arrow there because this needs to be watched very carefully. So as you can see, we're not short of trading signals today. Suddenly it's all happening. That one, the CAD, is also, yeah, that's fair. That's a fair signal. Those haven't quite done it yet, so we'll leave them alone. So already we've got a whole handful of signals in just looking at the daily chart so far. So let's move on to the forward charts. If anybody in the room sees something that I might have missed or anything like that, then certainly just shout out. Now, yesterday I mentioned that this Euro Oz was in a very steep downtrend, and the RSI was not reaching the overbought environment, which confirms the downtrend. Now you can see it's breaking away quite strongly. It's actually going over the 50 line. So this is a weakish signal, but I'll put an arrow there. But certainly it's most probably not the best signal that I would go for on an ongoing basis. Let's have a look. That one's not ready yet. All right, here's a signal, the euro pound, 2 mounds or even more mounds there, trend line violation. So again, we're just seeing lots of these signals happening, and some of them have sadly have already happened. So we a bit late with some of them. This one is now this one we identified yesterday as a potential trade because of the fact that it was bouncing against the resistance at the top there like that, and that trend line, and it was more of a trend line violation trade than an RSI trade, but the divergence confirmed that this is likely to break, which it has now done, and that's actually something identified from yesterday. And here was also something identified from yesterday. Also, the divergence. And you could say that this is an early signal. I'm not, yeah. I think the 50 line crossover was actually the signal there. So again, quite a good signal, that particular one. So let's have a look. Boom, that one. Look at those candles there, just up and down, up and down. The euro yen doesn't know where it wants to go. The pound yen, very similar. Also has created quite a nice divergence signal there, exactly the same. I think I might have discussed this one already, but there we go. All right, so let's go and have a look at the other 4-hour set of charts. Okay, let's have a look. There was an early sell signal, but we can actually move it over here. A difficult one, this, because it is, and I'm cleaning the charts up from yesterday. There's the divergence, beautiful divergence. Let's just make sure there's a trend line running there. And I'd like to see that one cross the trend line before it becomes a true sell, but certainly there's a setup, a divergence, a 50 line crossover, and we'd have to wait for. I'm a bit concerned that this hasn't crossed over that trend line over there. It should have. Normally the RSI is a leading indicator, and it crosses over first, so that is one to wait for. But certainly the Oz, not one to wait for. We've got the similar setup as we identified that. This is a typical setup that you've got to watch out for. It bounces against resistance at the top. There's the resistance. It makes a divergence. You see, there's the divergence. So that makes this a strong signal. And then there's and this is from yesterday. So, and this is the 4-hour chart. So we identified it yesterday as a potential, and it's just happened. It's actually happened during the open of the. It was probably the Frankfurt exchange, and there's the move. Quite a nice move, almost 90 pips in one candle. So that's a pretty good move. So one has to really watch these setups quite closely. Here, the pound done the same thing, and let's just reduce the size of the pound. I think the problem, oh yeah, there was a bit of resistance, and I'm just going to use this line to create, oh yeah, there we go. There's our resistance line. So we had a similar setup here. The RSI was overbought, hitting its head against resistance, and the price often has nowhere else to go but down, and that's what's happened there. So there's certainly a strengthening in the dollar. You can see red, and then blue for the US yen, and blue for the US CAD, and you should see a blue here. Yep, blue here. So the dollar is obviously taking a bit of a beating. All the other currencies are going against it, and that's why we're seeing so many signals. It's a dollar-dominated market that we have here. That's a 50 line crossover with a strong divergence. So again, I mean, we're not short of signals. I think we've identified well over 10 signals so far. Oh yeah, there's a beautiful one. I mean, this is just Christmas. And this is also one where it's bouncing on support. It's created a divergence. There's there's a divergence there. You look at it there, it's a divergence and a trend line violation. So lots of classical setups. Unfortunately, they're literally happening as we speak. And we a little bit late to the party, but there we are, all great signals happening. All the charts on this particular group have signals on them. Okay, let's have a look at the 1 hour very briefly. Yesterday we identified a potential signal here that didn't work. Now here's an example of one that didn't work. We had a 1, 2, 3, 4 bounce, and we were expecting it to go down. It didn't. It broke out and actually went the other way. So those are the kind of things that happen. But at the same time, this one worked quite well because we had a 1, 2, 3, 4. It actually broke down, and we said that the target would be more or less there, and it came close to the target. So although it's subsequently it's gone up, we could have got that one as a positive trade. The other thing about channel trades, this is a failed swing. So in other words, it should go 1, 2, 3, 4, and it should come down and bounce at the bottom of the channel. Now, when it doesn't, like it has done here, and it reverses, then that is the entry point for your failed swing. This is a failed swing, and that's one of the entries. And we've this is a 1 hour, so we've missed it since our last webinar. So there was one loss and one profit, and then here I think was a profit where it didn't quite reach the target, but we identified this as a buy 1, 2, 3, 4, and we were saying it's going to buy that way 5, and in fact it did. It went 3/4 of the way or 2/3 of the way, and has since broken down to the other side. And again, this is a failed swing trade. 1, 2, 3, 4. It should go there. It didn't. It breaks out there. So then you take the trade as it breaks out of the channel. That's what I'm not going to look at the 1 hour too closely, because I think we've seen a lot on the other charts. I just wanted to have a look, because yesterday we didn't find trades, and we had to look at the 1 hour to find trades. So 2 of them semi-worked and one of them failed, but and that's just the way it is. And if we were day traders and we were actually watching the charts all the time, I think we would have caught a lot of these as the failed swings happened and that type of thing. Okay, any comments, remarks, or questions from anybody in the webinar? I've basically done the analysis. I haven't got anything educational planned. I was hoping for some questions or comments to spur that on. So if you do have any, just shoot them through in the next 2 minutes, because I'm about to end in the webinar. I see we've got quite a few people in the room. Please ask any question you want, even if you think it is too simple or too easy or anything like that. Certainly I'll do my best to answer it, but certainly don't feel embarrassed about asking a question. So any questions out there today? Maybe I'll just have a quick look at the weeklies. We haven't done the weeklies for quite a long time. I'm just gonna, while we're chatting, and you can see how rough the weekly candles are. They sort of small, and then suddenly very rough. Small, very rough. That's why I haven't actually looked at the weeklies, because the candles are just untradeable on the weeklies. Oh, okay, right. What is your criteria for selecting the 4 currencies in the plug and play GTM, but it's really based on historical performance of those particular currencies. Unfortunately, since those currencies were selected, what you're seeing on the chart has happened. They've all of them have started going really crazy, which has made it very difficult for the GTM to perform at its best. But certainly, it's just based on historical performance. We basically back trade the about 12 currencies, and then we find the best ones and we put it in. And it's about time to change the fall potentially, but the market still hasn't settled down. You can still see these candles are a little bit wild, and we're not going to revise the plug and play settings until the market settles down and becomes more normalized. The weekly charts certainly are showing what's going on in the market, complete indecision and wildness. You don't actually see them at that well on the daily charts and things like that, but the weekly is a good example of why the market has it's tricky at the moment to trade the market with a robot or even on a manual basis. But certainly today there's been quite a few predictable trades that have happened, and that's quite nice. We've had well over 10 signals. Unfortunately, some of them already happened, others are in the process of happening, and some of those candles have already run 80 pips or so. So unfortunately, this webinar was 4 hours too late. Okay, so that's good. That's pretty good. Good feedback there. The four currencies for the GTM plug and play made over 1,000 pips yesterday with the aggressive settings. Well done. That's excellent. And you can see that although the market's wild, if you take, for instance, the euro, I can't remember which the currencies were, but it's actually going nowhere. If you think at the start of this wildness, it was there, and it's just gone up and down, up and down, up and down. And it hasn't gone anywhere far. And that's a kind of environment you want for the GTM, where it's just going up and down and that type of thing. So you can make it quite a bit of money in those kind of environments. Okay, well, thanks very much for your attendance. Thanks for the questions asked, and there will be another. There will be a webinar in about 12 hours' time for a market analysis, but there will be a special webinar for the $1,000 to $1 million project. So I might see you in a few hours, or other than that, I might see you in the analysis webinar in about, I think it's probably in about 12 hours or 14 hours. So from me, Alex Deploy, cheerio.